She's the far-right nationalist candidate once again locked into a runoff battle with Emmanuel Macron. On her third presidential bid, she's risen to narrow the gap between her and the incumbent.
Marine Le Pen, the leader of France's far-right National Rally Party, has once again stirred the political waters by announcing her staunch opposition to the influx of immigrants, asylum seekers, and refugees into France. Her announcement comes at a time when the country is grappling with what she describes as an immigration crisis.
I will bring back France's sovereignty in all areas, which means the freedom for the French people to decide for themselves and defend their interests. I will control immigration and re-establish security for all.
Seeking to distance herself from her party's allegations of racism and anti-Semitism, the sanitization of her image began with rebranding from National Front to National Rally in 2018. Whilst her hardline anti-immigration platform has few changes, Le Pen has shifted focus, choosing to concentrate on the current cost of living crisis worsened by the war in Ukraine.
And her rhetoric has reignited debates about France's identity, its obligations to international humanitarian law, and the broader implications for the European Union's approach to migration. Le Pen's position is not surprising given her long-standing views on immigration, but the context in which she has made these statements highlights a critical moment for France and Europe as a whole. Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more updates. Le Pen's announcement was made during a press conference in Paris, where she outlined her party's proposed policies on immigration and asylum. She did not mince words, stating unequivocally that France should no longer accept new immigrants, asylum seekers, or refugees. According to Le Pen, the country has reached a breaking point and can no longer cope with the social, economic, and cultural pressures that mass immigration allegedly brings. She cited rising crime rates, the strain on public services, and the erosion of French cultural identity as key reasons for her stance. Her speech was filled with populist rhetoric, appealing to those who feel left behind by globalization.
As comments on the latest example of Paris's hardline approach, after the Italian island of Lampedusa saw an influx of more than 8,500 arrivals last week, France tightened its borders, announcing stricter checks to stop migrants who landed in Italy from making their way north. Paris and Berlin charge Rome with failing to register new arrivals who then travel and apply for asylum in other countries, a breach of EU rules. The crisis has become a headache for the bloc and residents on Lampedusa. The influx of arrivals more than outnumber the island's population of just 6,000 people, and residents say they've had enough.
And disillusioned with the current government's handling of immigration. The timing of Le Pen's announcement is significant. France, like many other European countries, has been facing increasing challenges related to immigration in recent years. The war in Ukraine, conflicts in the Middle East and Africa, and economic instability in various regions have driven millions of people to seek refuge in Europe. France, due to its geographical location and historical ties with former colonies, has been a major destination for migrants and refugees. The country's immigration system has been under immense pressure, with asylum applications reaching record highs and the government struggling to provide adequate housing, healthcare, and education for newcomers. Le Pen's comments reflect a broader trend in European politics, where far-right parties have gained traction by capitalizing on public fears about immigration. In France, the issue of immigration has been a central theme in political discourse for decades, and it has only intensified in recent years.
It's 4 a.m. and the people smugglers are out on the beaches of northern France. As we watch, a dinghy draws up and dozens of people climb aboard. It's fast and efficient. The boat leaves and the smugglers wave off their clients, now heading towards the UK, and then they run off.
Stop.
The sea is calm, and today business is booming. Approaching the shore, a dinghy with 5 smugglers on board. In essence, it's a taxi boat coming to collect. A police boat makes waves to try to block the dinghy's route, but it gets past, and the smugglers beckon the crowds of hopeful migrants.
Le Pen and her party have consistently pushed for stricter immigration controls, arguing that the current policies are too lenient and that they threaten the social fabric of the nation. Her latest announcement is a continuation of this narrative, but it also represents a more radical approach that goes beyond just tightening borders or reforming the asylum system. One of the key elements of Le Pen's proposal is to revoke France's participation in the European Union's asylum system, which she argues is flawed and allows too many people to enter the country. Under the current system, asylum seekers can apply for protection in any EU member state, and once they receive refugee status, they can move freely within the Schengen area. Le Pen has long criticized this system, claiming that it undermines France's sovereignty and that it leads to an uncontrolled flow of migrants. She has called for a return to national control over immigration and borders, which would involve withdrawing from certain EU agreements and renegotiating others. Le Pen's stance on immigration is deeply intertwined with her broader vision for France. She has positioned herself as a defender of French identity, which she believes is under threat from both immigration and the influence of the European Union. Her rhetoric often invokes a sense of nostalgia for a past, when France was more homogeneous and less influenced by global forces. This vision resonates with a significant portion of the French population, particularly among those who feel that their way of life is being eroded by multiculturalism and economic change. Le Pen's message is clear: to preserve French culture and values,
of people smuggling across the channel. Look over there, there are dozens of people desperately clambering to get onto that boat. It is a chaotic scene, but it's being watched by a police boat out in the sea and by dozens of French police officers on the beach. The final people drag themselves up onto the boat. Back on the beach, there are plenty who didn't make it. Rabaz is travelling with his wife and two small children. They've come from Iraq, intent on getting to Britain. How many times have you tried to cross to Britain? 4 times.
Yes, and I am still trying.
And you will try again?
Yeah, of course.
And
because I don't have any solution.
the country must take drastic measures to limit immigration and protect its borders. However, Le Pen's proposals have been met with fierce criticism from various quarters. Human rights organizations, political opponents, and even some within her own party have condemned her rhetoric as xenophobic and harmful. Critics argue that her policies would violate international law, including the 1951 Refugee Convention, which obliges signatory countries to protect those fleeing persecution. They also point out that France has a long history of providing asylum to those in need, and that closing the door to refugees would be a betrayal of the country's humanitarian values. Furthermore, opponents of Le Pen's stance argue that her policies would not address the root causes of migration, such as conflict, poverty, and climate change. Instead, they suggest that a more comprehensive approach is needed, one that includes diplomatic efforts to resolve conflicts, development aid to improve living conditions in migrants' home countries, and international cooperation to manage migration in a humane and orderly way. They warn that Le Pen's proposals would isolate France on the global stage and could lead to a backlash from other countries, as well as from the French public.
Whilst her hardline anti-immigration platform has few changes, Le Pen has shifted focus, choosing to concentrate on the current cost of living crisis worsened by the war in Ukraine.
With the prices of gas, electricity, and fuel, nobody dares to be ironic anymore. As president, I will decrease the VAT on all energy products from 20 to 5.5%.
Another boon for Le Pen was the rise of fellow far-right candidate and former TV pundit Eric Zemmour, whose inflammatory language and extreme views softened her previously harsh image. She has relaxed her stances on several issues.
In addition to the legal and ethical concerns, there are also practical challenges to implementing Le Pen's policies. The logistics of closing the borders, revoking asylum rights, and deporting large numbers of migrants would be complex and costly. It would require significant resources and could strain relations with France's neighbors, particularly those within the European Union. There is also the risk of creating a humanitarian crisis, as thousands of people could be left in limbo, unable to return to their home countries but also barred from entering France. This could lead to an increase in illegal immigration and human trafficking, as desperate people seek alternative ways to reach Europe. Despite these challenges, Le Pen's message has struck a chord with many voters. Polls show that immigration is a top concern for the French electorate, and Le Pen's hardline stance appeals to those who believe that the current government has failed to manage the issue effectively. Her party, the National Rally, has seen a surge in support in recent years, and Le Pen is widely regarded as a serious contender in the upcoming presidential election. Her ability to tap into public anxiety about immigration has been a key factor in her political success, and her latest announcement is likely to further galvanize her base. However, it is important to note that Le Pen's views on immigration are not universally shared in France.
I want to explain that, in response to these comments, our party immediately initiated disciplinary proceedings against the candidate. And as a general rule, they are excluded because of these remarks. Other political movements who also have candidates who make unacceptable remarks, rather than excluding them, they actually protect them. They cover them up. And I think that's what we need to look at.
But I just want to know, will these people be excluded? Will they be expelled?
They are already facing...
No, they're running right now. They're now candidates. These names...
Madame, forgive me. We have certain procedures.
Yeah, but you've got an election in 3 days.
Madame, forgive me. But that's not my vision of justice.
There is a significant portion of the population that supports a more compassionate approach to refugees and asylum seekers. Many French citizens are proud of their country's tradition of offering refuge to those in need, and they view immigration as a positive force that has enriched French society. This division in public opinion reflects a broader debate about the future of France and its role in the world. On one side are those who want to close the country off from external influences and prioritize national identity, and on the other are those who believe in openness, diversity, and international solidarity. Le Pen's announcement also has implications beyond France's borders. Immigration is a highly contentious issue across Europe, and the rise of far-right parties in several countries has put pressure on the European Union to rethink its approach to migration. The EU's asylum system has been criticized for being inefficient and unfair, with some countries bearing a disproportionate share of the burden. Le Pen's call to withdraw from the system could inspire similar moves in other countries, potentially leading to a breakdown of the EU's collective response to migration. In response to Le Pen's announcement, the French government and other political leaders have sought to reassure the public that they are taking the issue of immigration seriously. President Emmanuel Macron, who has positioned himself as a centrist and a defender of European integration, has acknowledged the challenges posed by immigration but has argued that the solution lies in better management, not in closing borders.
Jordan Bardella has said that only with an absolute majority would he accept to lead the next government. If you do not get an absolute majority, will the RN take up the prime ministership?
If we don't have an absolute majority, we'll try to find one. In other words, we're going to turn to a certain number of MPs who weren't elected with us, but who might agree.
Macron has proposed reforms to the asylum system, including faster processing of applications and greater cooperation with other EU countries to share the responsibility for refugees. He has also called for a more proactive foreign policy to address the root causes of migration, such as conflict and poverty. Macron's approach reflects a belief in the importance of maintaining France's commitment to humanitarian principles, while also addressing the legitimate concerns of citizens. He has sought to balance the need for security and social cohesion with the obligation to protect those fleeing persecution. However, his position is a delicate one, as he must navigate a polarized political landscape where both the far right and far left are gaining ground. Macron's handling of the immigration issue could be a deciding factor in the next presidential election, and he will need to convince voters that his policies are both effective and just. Le Pen's announcement has also sparked debate within the National Rally itself. While the party's base is largely supportive of her hardline stance, there are some members who worry that her rhetoric could alienate moderate voters. The National Rally has worked hard in recent years to soften its image and broaden its appeal, and some within the party fear that Le Pen's latest move could undo that progress. There is also concern that her focus on immigration could overshadow other important issues such as the economy and security, which are also key concerns for voters. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, what's your reaction to Marine Le Pen's stance on immigration? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.